Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you into my channel A to Z Therapy with Smriti. This is your host, Smriti Sikta Mishra. I'm an occupational therapy and clinical psychology student. So come, join me on my journey of becoming a therapist and let's learn together. Welcome to the first episode of our series on parenting. We have with us is Dr. Meghna Singhal. Thank you so much, first of all, for featuring on our official podcast. We unfortunately we don't have our founder here, but we have our audio recorded, and he will be. This is our first episode for on parenting, and he will be and he will be just introducing the series. So let's hear
Okay.
it out.
So today, as an organization, MH India has started with parenting as a new series in collaboration with the therapy unit of MH India, that is A to Z Therapy with Smriti. Being the founder of this organization, I just want to say a few things that parenting is a very tough nut to crack, definitely. And with the challenging times we are having nowadays, being it the pandemic or the lockdowns or the schools are not opening up, the things are getting worse and worse and more difficult, especially for the work from home parents nowadays. A quote that reminds me that how parenting can be difficult is by Dr. Ivan McGregor. He said that the thing about parenting rules is that there aren't any rules. That what makes it so difficult. So in today's edition of the special episode of the podcast of the new series launched on parenting, we had a very special guest, that is Dr. Meghna Singhal. She is one of the finest parenting coach we have in India, being internationally certified and a triple P degree holder from one of the finest institutes, that is NIMHANS Bangalore, and also a doctorate in parenting from University of Queensland. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for featuring in our official podcast and guiding our audience on various tips regarding parenting. That's all.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you, ma'am. So today we will be talking about parenting, what and how the new or the expected parents must learn the changed rules in the times of modern parenting in the times of post-COVID era. So before we start, I would just like to have a brief introduction of you. So already have had it, but you do a lot of work. You are a blogger yourself, so I would just like to have a brief introduction of you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. It's indeed a pleasure to talk about something that's so close to my heart, that's parenting. So, yeah, I mean, about myself, I think it's already been said. I had a wonderful introduction, but I think what I would just like to add on top of that is currently I'm with a parenting organization called Parent Circle. I've been with Parent Circle for 2 years, and I'm a clinical psychologist and parenting coach at Parent Circle. And Parent Circle over the last few years has evolved this core parenting philosophy, which is amazing, which is soundly, it's grounded in research, and it basically focuses on being empathetic. Teaching parents to be empathetic towards their children and being empathetic towards parents, because let's face it, parents are facing a lot of challenges these days. There is lesser guidance available these days because I think the breaking up of traditional joint families, with the more nuclear setups coming up, what is happening is that modern day parents have less guidance today. And we did a quick survey of parents where we asked them, who do you go to with your parenting concerns? Suppose you're facing a parenting challenge, who do you go to? And unanimously, the answer was Google.
Oh God.
That is not good news, because
Yeah.
internet should not be a reliable source of information, because
Exactly.
so much content out there which is not scientifically validated, right? I mean, at Parent circle, we're all for science-backed parenting, right? I mean,
Okay.
it's so important to know what our science tells us about how we should parent, and because science has progressed so much in the last 30 years, what our parents, for example, did not know
Yeah.
about raising, about how why it's inappropriate to spank your child, why it's inappropriate to even yell at your child. Today, neuroscience is telling us about that.
Yeah.
So it's my mission. It's what Parent Circle does. It's my mission as well to provide parents with science-backed information.
Mm-hmm.
Not give them information like, oh, you try this, this worked for me. No,
Mm.
we give parents science-backed information because that I think that is the gap that we need to address in India.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
1 month, I've created this vlog, more like a video blog. I have my own Facebook page and my own Insta page. It goes by the name The Therapist Mommy. And
Okay.
I've just started putting out content out there because I'm just so passionate about this, and I've received such an amazing response. I mean, I'm absolutely thrilled and humbled, and it's amazing to see how much people respond to good quality parenting content.
Yeah, absolutely. So from this, what I want to ask is that I think every single parent somewhere or the other feels that whether he or she is actually a good parent or an ideal parent. So what according to you is an ideal parent, or even if do you believe in ideal parenting? Because I think we all do mistakes, and it's we need to normalize mistakes too. So do you believe in it?
Absolutely. I think what you said, Smriti, was very apt. We need to normalize mistakes. Well, let me first just say this one thing, that there is nothing called ideal or flawless parenting. There are
Mm.
no perfect parents in the world, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
at some level, I think we all know this, but I think still many of us fall prey to feeling worried or feeling inadequate, right? And so I think my suggestion to parents would be that instead of worrying or trying to attain some standard of perfection which simply doesn't exist, just show up for your child. Today
Yeah.
itself I was recording a video in which I was talking about how showing up for your child, showing up means being there for your kids, being
Hmm.
physically present, being emotionally present, being cued into your child, focusing for whatever time that you're spending with your child, even if it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes in a day, focusing that your 100% attention on your child in that moment. and
Hmm.
and that is what makes your child feel safe. That's what makes your child feel care about them. And that makes you see your child for who they really are, instead of being guided by some labels. uh,
Yeah.
you know yeah, so it really means understanding your child's feelings behind your child's behavior. So this is very doable, right? Showing up for your child, and it's very doable rather than really trying to be the perfect parent, which I think is a useless endeavor, because there is nothing called perfect parenting.
Absolutely, very true. So, when we are all stuck up in this lockdown situation and all this pandemic thing happening, so how actually can we properly diagnose the disorders like conduct disorders or ODDs when these are all behavioral and emotional disorders, sort of, and when we even the parents are sort of very much into depression or anxiety or things like that. So how actually can we properly diagnose these conditions within the children in these
See,
times?
yeah. See, the pandemic has obviously been very tough on children,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of children's aberrant behaviors are stemming from being stuck indoors and having too much screen time, for example,
Mm.
right? But the mental health conditions that you're referring to ODD or child, conduct disorder. They're actually quite different from simply not listening to your parents or
Mm.
displaying uncooperative behavior or displaying
Yeah.
annoying behavior.
Mm.
These are diagnosable mental health conditions.
Yeah.
So what I would request parents to do is, don't try to diagnose it yourself.
Mm.
Just because your child is not listening to you does not mean that they have, oppositional defiant disorder or conduct disorder. Most of the hospitals and medical institutes are offering both online and offline services, and it's imperative that a diagnosis is made by a certified mental health professional only, such as a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist. So please, if you feel that your child is displaying a pattern of behavior of aggressive conduct, such as bullying or physically harming others or deceitful behavior or destructive behavior or just violating rules, I mean, if you observe this as a pattern, then you must contact a certified mental health professional and seek help, because even through this pandemic, the doctors are there, they're working, the
Yeah.
clinical psychiatrists, they are working, and you can make a online consultation and follow that up with an offline consultation, but
Mhm.
please don't try to diagnose it yourself, because
Yeah.
that's lead us anywhere.
Okay. So that's a very wonderful advice. I think we all must, as we all, like parents should follow. So now the next question is, how actually can we handle different sort of like children? So first of all, I would like to know about the children having CD, conduct disorder. How to handle them when we are at home and everything is just shut down and all.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's difficult, right? I mean,
Hmm.
children with not just conduct disorder, but I think any mental health condition, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's, these children themselves and their families, I think they have been particularly impacted by the pandemic, right? I
Hmm.
mean, so-called regular people, you've seen like there's been a rise in mental health conditions, right?
Yeah.
People are experiencing depression, people are experiencing anxiety, they're experiencing stress, they're overwhelmed. So it's been tough. Okay, and parents have not been able to access mental health services or therapy,
Hmm.
and that has been an additional challenge, right? So for, I think, for not just for conduct, I think for all the mental health conditions, I would recommend that have like a kind of a predictable routine or structure for your child, right? I mean, I think it's very important, especially for children with mental health conditions, they need to make sense of the world around them through some kind of structure,
Hmm.
right? So when things change, it becomes extremely difficult for them to cope up with unfamiliar situations,
Yeah.
right? So create a predictable routine for your child, especially if you're. I mean, this kind of suggestion is applicable even for children who don't have any mental health condition, right? Because children thrive on routines, they thrive on predictability,
Yeah.
right? So but it's even more important to do that if your child does have a mental health condition, whether it's conduct disorder or autism or MR, or even if your child has different needs or hyperactivity or anything at all. My first suggestion would be create a predictable routine for your child, create a predictable routine for yourself, so
Mm.
that you don't feeling overwhelmed, because we know how much the caregiver's burden is so high in in such cases. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would.
Okay. So, any special advice for parents having children with autism or who have special needs or disabled or they have slow learning disorder? So, any particular advice for these types of parents?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, with all of these mental health conditions or with children with different needs, we know that their ongoing therapy, whatever occupational therapy they were accessing, whatever mental health therapy they were accessing, that has been disrupted,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so I mean that's been very tough for parents, especially say for a condition like autism, right?
Mm.
You work with a special educator, and you work your way through whatever kind of training program that your child is taking, and these small steps, with these small steps you make these small wins, and
Yeah.
suddenly to have that stopped can really disrupt whatever progress your child seemed to have made. So a lot of parents are now reporting that my child had taken 10 steps, but it's now like taking 15 steps back,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's very overwhelming for any parent. Obviously it's not an ideal case scenario, but but with regard to, I mean, just with regard to being stuck at home and not being able to access therapy, the one thing that I would recommend is just, I mean, this is again across the board, whether it's any mental health condition or whether your child has special needs, or even if you have a regular child, engage your child in physical activities. That is the one thing that children need. Most children have abundant energy, and when they burn off this energy by exercising, by practicing yoga, or even doing household chores, that helps them, they become calm, right? And
Mm-hmm.
finishing a chore, like it even helps them get better at a life skill,
Yeah.
right? So it gives them a sense of satisfaction or purpose. And anybody can do that, right? I mean, anybody can, any child, I mean, even if it's a very young child, like as young as 3, right? You can sort of train them to, doing some chores. So any kind of physical activity, indoors, even if you can't step outdoors, any kind of exercise, any kind of yoga is, any kind of deep breathing is what I would recommend in general.
Okay.
And the another thing that has seen a lot of disruption is, I think, just learning, right? So we know that all the academic learning has shifted online, right?
Mhm.
But children with mental health issues and children with special needs, the challenge for them is inclusion in online learning,
Yeah,
right? Because the coping with that fast paced instruction, lack of face to face interaction, it's not easy for regular kids only.
regular kids, exactly.
So, I mean, obviously, children with mental health conditions and children with different needs are obviously struggling. So, my suggestion to parents there would be to understand that this can be really overwhelming for your child, and therefore to deprioritize academics for your child for this year. I
Mm,
mean, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. It is stressful
exactly.
for all of us. It's
Mm,
affected everyone's productivity levels. It is okay if your child is not able to do this whole, online learning thing. It is okay if your child is not able to cope with academics. Use this time to do other things with your child. I mean, I think the one thing that I tell parents all across the board is use the, I mean, you've always been saying, I'm working, there's not enough time that I get to
yeah,
spend with
yeah.
this time for that. Use this time to forge connection. Use this time to spend some quality time with your child. Use this time to come together as a family and allocate, okay, who will do which chores? Okay, when are we getting together as a family? Every Friday evening, let's play a board game. Let's do this. You know what I'm saying? That it's that rhythm of a family life that you can get back on track.
Yeah.
Is not important right now. What's
Mm,
important is what am I teaching my child through through about surviving a global pandemic, right?
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. So, another which is you just said that the therapist and everything, so how can parents become a co-therapist? Because in this, like everything is gonna online, even the therapies are happening online. It's
Yeah.
the era of teletherapy. So, how can parents become a co-therapist? Because at times, when you have a physical therapist with you, they do certain things, but since
Yeah.
this is not at normal time, so how can parents become a co-therapist for their children, uh, especially the children having some issues with like mental issues or anything like that?
Yeah. No, I think that there's an answer hidden in your question itself. I think the answer
Yeah.
yeah, that parents need to realize that they need to step up and become their child's co-therapist,
Yeah.
right? From what they have learned from their, from the child's therapist, this is the time to maybe apply that. But at the same time, not put too much pressure on yourself, because I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not able to cope with an additional role, right? Now you're saying that parents who have traditionally gone to office, or even stay-at-home parents who have the extra burden of caring for a child with either mental health issues or different needs. Now there is another role on them. Like already
Yeah.
there are so many roles.
Mm,
You have to manage your household chores without any household help. You have to take care of your office work. You have to take care of your child's academics, and then now you have to take care of your child's therapy as well, right? So without making it sound like parents need to be juggling all of these acts to perfection, let me
mm,
just say that if you are able to be your child's co-therapist, great. But take I would add that pinch of salt there, that if you feel too overwhelmed in doing that, cut yourself some slack and focus on doing something that no therapist in the world can do, which is again forging that kind of connection with your child,
mm.
which only you, being your child's parent, being your child's caregiver, can do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. So, what would be your piece of advice to parents having children aged less than 1 years? That's a tough job. I mean, less than 1 year child, and you being busy with your online jobs and everything. So, what would be your piece of advice for them?
Honestly, my advice to them would be, especially because there is so much of, I mean, there is definitely a rising spate of postpartum issues, mental health issues, and specifically postpartum issues. I'm saying this because you asked for parents for children, less than 1 year of age, very, very high risk of postpartum issues,
Yeah.
right? So my one solid piece of advice and suggestion to these parents would be take care of yourself first. I know it's so difficult to do that because you always place your child first.
Yeah.
You have this new baby in your life, and you just love them with all your heart, and you just want to give your whole life to that little human being that you brought into this world. But you know what? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
extremely important that you take care of your sleep, you take care of your diet, you take care of your exercise, you take care of your emotional health by reaching out to family, by reaching out to your partner, by reaching out to your friends for emotional support. So taking care of yourself, I know, is the most important, most neglected thing, because I know of new mothers who don't even get time to take a shower, and this is when they're on maternity leave, and they're not even working. So it's tough. And obviously, the global pandemic doesn't make it any easier. But my one piece of advice to these parents would be, please, please learn to prioritize yourself as well. Because if you are, if your mental health, if your physical and mental health is sound, trust me, that's what your baby needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would be your advice for parents having children having aged 1 to 5 year? That's when their children go to school, start going to
Yes.
schools, and they just have a exciting life. And now this pandemic.
So 1 to 5 is, mainly toddlers and preschoolers, right?
Yeah.
Some of them may have online classes, but not all of them. But
Okay.
really, toddlers and preschoolers is an age wherein you're just so curious and so full of for the world around you. And I mean, I think to parents with children that age, I would just recommend that just try to spend time with your child. Don't worry about your child learning. I know a lot of parents who have kids in this age range, they're like, okay, my child is not sitting through online classes, and my child is not really learning, and I have to introduce phonics to my 3-year-old. And I mean, I'm part of a lot of parent groups, so I know that this is what parents are really expressing as their concerns. And what I tell them is, what, just take a step back.
Yeah.
Does not Even if your child does not end up learning phonics at 3, even if your child does not learn to read at 5, even if your child does not learn numbers by 4, it's fine. Again, I mean, I would probably reiterate what I said previously. Focus on forging a connection with your child, right? Develop small rituals that reconnect you with your child, you know every day. Like, for example, a 5-minute snuggle the first thing in the morning. When you're talking to your child, turn off technology. A lot of parents are reporting across ages that there has been an increase in screen time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I know that American Academy of Pediatricians, they have these guidelines, screen time guidelines, in which for preschoolers it's actually they say less than 1 hour
Less than
of
1 hour. Yeah.
and it's I mean those guidelines have been developed after a lot of research, so we do have reason to place our trust in that. But this is a global pandemic. It's okay if your child is watching iPad for half an hour, 1 hour extra. It's fine. Also focus on what I can do with the rest of the time. How I can connect with my child, and how I can use these small opportunities to nurture the connection with my child.
And what can be the for the parents having aged children having aged 5 to 10 years? Because that's a very different. They are growing, they are getting into their teens, in the like in their pre-teens, and when they are like 10, 11. So that's a very different journey for them.
Yeah. So first of all, I think let me acknowledge that children are the true heroes of this pandemic, right? How they've adapted to being at home, how they've adapted to online classes, to not meeting their
friends.
I think it's and something that we adults need to learn, right? So, yes, I mean, again, 5 to 10 is a beautiful age. They're primary schoolers, they're getting into middle school. And again, what I would suggest to these parents is focus on, make a priority list for your family. Like focus on what's really important at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Is this time important for focusing on academics, or is this time important for instilling some kind of life skills or values
Yeah.
that probably never thought about, like for example, the just the value of gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Being thankful, just the fact that we have a roof above our heads, that we're getting healthy home cooked nutritious meals 3 times a day. I mean, parents to have these conversations with their children is so important. And this is the time, because we are living through a global pandemic, so this is the time to reinforce some of the most cherished values to your child, because that's going to take your child a long way.
Yeah, that's very important. I think, and obviously, at some point while growing up, we have actually in these busy lives and everything, the metro thing, and yeah, we have somewhere or the other, we have forgotten our value system to just instill some values to our children. It's like, it's a good time to, if we see the positive side, it's a good,
Absolutely.
yeah, if we see into the positive
And
side, yeah, if we see into the positive side, it's a good time to just rekindle that connection between your children. So that's a great time.
absolutely, absolutely, Smriti. And another thing is that, uh, you know, uh, inculcating values is
Mm-hmm.
important,
Yeah.
but let's not moralize, and let's not
Ah.
lecture.
Hmm.
The one thing that children learn the best from is modeling. If
Yeah.
parents can model, what just walk the talk, right? You want
Exactly.
your child gratitude, be grateful yourself.
Exactly.
There's this little ritual that my daughter, who's 6, my daughter and I have started during this time. We got ourselves a diary each, and we started doing, making writing our own gratitude journal.
Hmm. That's very
And it's
nice. Yeah.
a small ritual that we've developed. We wake up every morning, we spend just 5 minutes writing some things that, we are grateful for. And it's just a small ritual, but it's amazing how much I can see, in my child, how much she's learning through that one little simple exercise, which is completely non-academic, which is
Mm-hmm.
not forced. She sees
Yeah.
me doing this, she gets to do it. We take newspapers and magazines, we cut pictures of the things we like, we stick it in our gratitude journal. I mean, it's beautiful and such a lovely way of instilling something that's so important in your child. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I would recommend parents to do as well.
Okay. So what for parents having children from aged 13 and above? That's a very
Teens.
important in terms of yeah, teens, and then they are just having their dreams, academics. There are a lot of things on their shoulder. So what would be your advice for them?
I mean, again, I might sound like a broken record, but I would again repeat that, even with regard to your teen. I mean, see, for teens, it's particularly difficult, and I'll tell you why. Teenage years, the adolescent years are an age in which peers become much more important, and with
Yeah.
reason. I mean,
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
happening in the
Happen.
child's
Yeah.
brain, in the teen's brain, which enable them to sort of deprioritize their parents and prioritize their peers, and that's fine.
Fine.
But for
Exactly.
peers, it's very difficult. For teenagers, it's very difficult because they are not able to meet their
Their
friends,
friends. Yeah.
right? Yeah, so and that can really impact a teen's mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at Parent Circle, we've been running meetups, right? And we ran this meetup of adolescents recently, and that's what they said. They said that being stuck at home with our parents the whole day is fine, but when the lecture the lecture and all starts, and when we're not able to meet our friends, it really gets to us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the one thing that I would request parents of teenagers, of adolescents particularly, to do is see ways in which you can enable your child's social development, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you enable your child to have a Zoom party with with his or her friends? I mean, look for brainstorm creative ways in which you can get your teen to fulfill that need of
Yeah.
social, because that need is very real in adolescence, and don't judge them when they are spending time with their teens, when they are probably messaging them
Yeah.
for what you is late into the night, and because maybe that's what self-care for our adolescents looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they need. If they
Yeah.
are not that face-to-face interaction with their friends and their peers, maybe this is how they're making up for it, and this is what they need. So support them in trying to access their friends, and avoid any kind of judgment when it comes to their friends, is what I
Yeah.
would tell the parents.
Okay, great piece of advice. Then in 2020, when we saw that the competitive exams being postponed again and again, and like whether it be NEET or JEE, the national level exams were postponed, and students actually didn't have any clue that when will they will get to appear in their examinations. They were preparing for like 2 years, 3 years, and it was such a crucial exam for their life. It's like a determining exam for the whole career, so it's stressful for the kids and equally for the parents. So what would be your piece of advice for those parents whose children are preparing for competitive exams? And I don't think that even this year we are going to have it very easy, even the board
Yeah.
exams. Yeah.
In fact, it's all so unclear. We don't even know
Yeah.
whether we're going to have school next academic year. When are these going to competitive exams? I mean, it's all very unclear. It's all muddled up.
Exactly.
And so in this time of uncertainty, what I would again tell parents is, especially parents, but also the their children, is that honestly, we have this technique in therapy where which we call zooming out. So if you take a real step back, and if you examine your life as if your say 10 years of your life is maybe 10 days, right? You would realize that things that are really important, things that really matter, are the things that you end up focusing on.
Mm.
But if you are focusing on things that are not that important, yeah, then it so why I'm saying this, I'll tell you why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because if we urge those parents to take a step back and think about how this 1 year does not really matter in the larger scheme of things, how losing 1 year, repeating the year or taking a gap year or whatever it is, how it does not matter, because we are all in this together. It's not like some children are able to,
Mm.
exams and go on to higher studies and do all of that. We are all in this together. So
Yeah.
it's that those fears about it being a rat race and insecurity do crop up, right?
Mm.
But it's important to zoom out and see from the vantage point of your entire life. You probably won't even remember that you had to take a gap year, you could not take the exam when you wanted to. It does not matter, right? It's
Mm.
not important. What's more important is, and it will happen, how your life pans out, how your career pans out. It's not that taking a gap year will forever scar your career. It's not like that, right? It's
Yeah.
not like you have not been able to take an exam this year, which most of the people have not, all the people have not. It's not like you will not be able to carve out the kind of career that you want for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, let's focus on what's really important. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, and what's really important is how we support each other through this, rather than it making it again about a rat race. And if
Mm-hmm.
you take a step back and zoom out of your life and see, you will realize that what's really important is not taking an exam. Yes,
Yeah.
it's an important, but it will eventually happen whenever it
Mm-hmm.
happens, right?
Hmm.
And focus our time and energy on really developing ourselves. There are so many things that one can do to develop your for example, like on your college application,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are so many things that you can write which are non-academic, which can
Hmm.
really help your college application,
Hmm.
right? How did you spend this time? What did you do to develop yourself? you know can you read books? Can you write
Hmm.
stories? Can you develop your own blog? Can you make music online? I mean, can you connect with people in the far, across the world, and do something creative? I mean, what I'm trying to say is that we have technology in our hands, and
Hmm.
we can use technology in creative ways. And again, this is a part of modeling to our kids, instead of just sitting and bemoaning the fact that, oh, I'm not able to study and I'm not able to take an exam. What can I do to, how will I show to my child, what can I do to make the most of this time? I think that is very important learning for for parents and their children.
Hmm. That's very important. And of course, because I have seen a lot of people, like especially children, in their like in these competitive, who were preparing for their competitive exams, and it was very stressful for them. And it's also very important that they understand this fact. Of course, they like there are so much of emotion, there's so much of hard work you do in those 2 3 years, or yeah, so it's a bit difficult. But again, with parents and family, we need to acknowledge the fact that we need to prioritize our things.
Yeah.
So yeah, so moving on to our next question is, what would you like to tell to the parents who are like expecting parents? They have their dreams, they have their exciting life in front of them, but again, they also have the fear that maybe the mother who is pregnant right now, maybe she will get COVID or anything like that. The anxiety that comes with it. Pregnancy in itself is a very difficult journey. So,
Yeah.
what would be your advice for expecting parents?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you said it right, that it's anyway a very it can be a very overwhelming journey and it can be quite stressful.
Mhm.
But life moves on. I mean, what I think I would humbly say that it's not my place to tell parents what to do. They already know what to do. And I've seen parents who have had either planned or unplanned pregnancies during this time, and they have coped beautifully, honestly. I mean, I know a lot of people in my
Wonderful.
professional circle, I know a lot of people in my personal circle, and yes, it's challenging to not have to say for example your spouse not being allowed inside the checkup room or while you're getting a scan done, and there are these little challenges. But of whatever I have seen, I don't think I am anyone to advise parents here, because all the expecting parents and parents who've also recently delivered their children are doing a fantastic job of coping. I mean, they're taking things in their stride. They are reaching out to friends for emotional support. They are reaching out in their network with their family and their friends for emotional support, for other kinds of logistics, and it's great. So I think I don't think I am anyone to advise them. I think they're already doing an amazing job.
Wow. I think all parents are so great fighters. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And children are even better. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we learn a lot from how children are coping. I mean, we
Yeah.
are like falling apart, but our kids are like, those brave warriors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so moving on, how to handle, we already talked about that there are issues like like the postpartum issues. So how to handle the postpartum blues or postpartum depression in these era? What would be your advice to mothers or parents suffering from these conditions?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we discussed, there has been a rise in postpartum cases during the pandemic, and it's unfortunate, but it's hardly surprising.
Mm-hmm.
The uncertainty and the anxiety prevailing around us during this global pandemic is increasing in general our levels of stress and fear of social isolation, especially in new mothers.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I would recommend is please take adequate rest, please take a healthy diet, please have your family pitch in with household work. You also need emotional support. So reach out to your family, your partner, your friends, and please, please, please seek a mental health professional for guidance, because I can't emphasize this enough. I know that a lot of people think that this phase will pass, but you might not have postpartum blues, you might have postpartum depression, right, or postpartum anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a good idea to seek counsel from a mental health professional such as a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist, because they know exactly what you might be headed towards. It's early intervention is always, always, always a good idea. So please seek apart from seeking support from your near and dear ones, please seek a mental health professional for guidance.
Mm. Okay, so can you please define what is postpartum blue, postpartum depression, and postpartum psychosis for us? Just a bit, a
Yeah.
brief, simple definition or defining for the general public.
Yeah, for the general public, what I would say is, see, 80% of the new mothers go through what we call as postpartum blues. And those are basically when you deliver a child, there are a lot of hormonal changes happening in your body. And postpartum blues is when you feel very, you feel like, you feel very sad. You feel for most of the day, you feel, that you don't feel like doing anything. You feel very lethargic and tired. you feel as if you don't feel like taking care of your baby or yourself. So those are postpartum blues, and it's astounding, right? 80% of women go through this, irrespective of class, language, culture, across the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And in some cases, okay, so some portion of that women go on to developing postpartum depression, which
Okay.
means that your feelings of low mood and lethargy and feeling tired and not feeling like taking care of yourself and not feeling like taking care of your baby becomes more sustained, which means that which means that it's a diagnosable condition which
Mm-hmm.
does require you to go to a mental health professional and and seek whatever it is that whether it's therapy or whether it's medication, because postpartum depression will not go off on its own. And it's very difficult because in postpartum depression, and I'll come to postpartum psychosis in a bit, but in postpartum depression you can have feelings like, I'm not an adequate mother, I'm not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being able to take care of my baby. And all of these negative thoughts that can come into your mind that can really play havoc with, actually you might be doing enough, you might be a great mother,
But
but
you will
just
just.
because, yeah, so your negative thoughts might make
Mm-hmm.
you believe otherwise, right?
Okay.
And once you contact a mental health, and your family can be there for for emotional support, but your family can't really help you through these negative thoughts. The
Yeah.
maximally they'll say is, no, you're fine, you're a good mother, you are taking care of the baby. But if you go to a clinical psychologist, for example, they will teach you how you can challenge these negative thoughts, what you can do about these thoughts, how you can decrease the level of your belief in these thoughts,
Mm.
right? So it's a very scientific way of treating postpartum depression. And
Okay.
postpartum psychosis is another ball game altogether, right? I mean, there are cases in which a mother starts feeling that as if she wants to hurt her baby,
Yeah,
right?
that's very serious actually.
Yeah, I mean, and that can be very scary for a new mother. Like, I
Yeah.
have just human into this world. Why am I getting these kind of thoughts,
Hmm.
right? So most of the time, it takes the form of these kind of delusions, which means a false belief that I am a bad mother, or I want to hurt my baby, or I want to just do something to harm my baby. And again, if you're getting these thoughts, even if they're fleeting, please do contact a mental health professional because they know how to help you through this. So
Hmm.
let's not take this easy. Postpartum mental health is an extremely important area of concern. And again, as I said, the pandemic has not been helping things. There's been a rise in cases. So please, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, and if you have ever experienced this, or if you're currently experiencing this, please do contact a mental health professional.
Yeah. Very important. Next thing will be, what are the reading materials you would like to recommend for the upcoming parents, like the expecting parents, or who are parents of certain children, having children certain age group. What are the reading materials you would just like to, or you could share some creative ideas that with their children the parents can do. Like you had
Well,
you yourself
I would
model a great example.
yeah, I mean, I would direct parents to our website, parentcircle.com. It's a treasure trove of articles, tips, strategies, information for all kinds of parents, new parents, expected parents, parents across all age groups. Recently, we've come up, I must tell you this, recently we've launched these set of activity books, the unique activity books called Little Learners at Home activity books for
Okay,
preschoolers. So for
wonderful.
children between 3 and 5 years of age, and they are very amazing activities because each activity has a like a worksheet that the child can do something on, and a hands-on activity, and each
Mm-hmm.
book has a theme. So I think it makes for a wonderful gift, and I have bought myself copies of that. So I mean, in terms of what to do, because this is the age, right, preschool age, where parents are struggling to what how do I engage my child, is the most common question that we come across from parents. So please take a look at the Little Learners at Home, and please visit my blog, the therapist a lot of information that I give out. You can contact me through my blog and you can ask me any question. Normally, what I do is whenever any parent contacts me and says, so recently this parent contacted me and said that my child, my 3-year-old, just doesn't, is glued to the mobile and just doesn't eat without watching videos. And so what I do is on my blog, I make these videos on 2-minute parenting tips. Okay, and that's the content I put out there. So if you want to contact me through my blog and ask me any particular question or parenting challenge that you're facing, you can be sure that I will give you tips through a video very very soon. So
Yeah.
so these are the
Yeah,
where
and
I would
yeah, and we will make sure that all your links are in the description
okay,
for
all
the
right.
channel. Yeah, that would be a great help for the parents too. Now, is that what are your future plans? Coming to just a bit of your personal future plans.
Well, actually, it's not something that it's not something very consolidated yet, but I just see myself as working in the field of parenting for the years to come, because honestly, I see a lot of gap. I see a lot of gap. I mean, I see that there's still so many misconceptions that parents have about parenting. I see there's a huge gap between what research tells us how we, what is the optimal way of parenting based on studies of children's brains, and the effect that various styles of parenting have on children's development, and actually how we parent. There's a huge gap between these two things. So through my work in the future, I plan to close that gap. I hope
Yeah.
I'll be able to do that.
Okay, wonderful, and we hope that you succeed in your wish. Uh, Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
okay. I
you.
think there was some network issue, so I could just hear you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think there's a network issue. Yeah.
yeah. So the last question, that three parenting tips you would just like to give to the general audience. Three basic or the most important tips that any parent should actually, remember while being around their children. It's like,
Okay.
hmm.
Okay. Yeah, irrespective of age, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I would recommend, and I can't stress this enough, is set up a routine for yourself and for your child,
Mm.
right? I mean, if you have a young child, you can even, or even an older child, you can get them to make a simple, colorful routine chart and put it in a place that is easily visible to your child, and that really adds that element of predictability in your child's routine, and it enables them to roll with the everyday changes that inevitably happen. So set a routine for your child and for yourself. That's first. The second tip that I would like to give is a ritual that I actually do with my kids. It's called the rose and thorn ritual, right?
Okay.
And so what that means, yeah, what that means is discussing something good that happened to you during that day. During, suppose you do this at dinner time, right, or bedtime, so you discuss one good thing or rose, whatever, that happened to you during the day, and what was prickly or thorn, for that about that day, something
Okay.
bad that happened to them that day. Or
Okay.
you can do this in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
at the breakfast table. You can do something good that you're looking forward to in the day, and something that that you're scared about and that you're not looking forward to. And I'll tell you what this does is, this rose and thorn ritual, it immediately brings you in the realm of feelings. What makes me feel good, what makes me feel unpleasant, and it's amazing. It's an amazing nugget of information from your child that you get, that you can then build on. You can then start having conversations with your child about, this makes you feel bad, this makes you feel angry, or this makes you feel upset or frustrated. What can you do about it, right?
Mm.
So it basically builds emotional intelligence in your child.
Yeah.
And my third tip is, start a family mindfulness practice, like, together as a family. So
Mm.
listening to a short guided meditation audio, just 5 minutes every day, maybe before dinner or during bedtime or something. And do this as a family activity. It really helps bring your family close together, and it really helps you calm down and really again something which is very valuable. It instills in your child that uh, we need to routinely stop and calm ourselves down, right? We
Yeah.
need to slow ourselves down. So mindfulness is an amazing, it's a beautiful practice that you can do as a family just for 5 minutes every day.
That's wonderful. So thank you so much, ma'am, for featuring and giving so much of content and so much of advice. It's like these simple things. These are simple things that we know, but we tend to forget every time. These things. I feel like these things happen to every single parents, and we need to just, and in these pandemic times, we just need to remember this again and again, that it's okay. And the bottom line is that it's okay. Everyone is going through it. It will pass in some time, and we need to be strong enough and help each other out, I think. And as you said, that gratitude is being empathetic is something we should actually teach our children. And so thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you from the whole team of MH India. And thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure interacting with you. I hope your voice reaches far and wide, and all the best.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
If you found this video worth your time, then do like, share to all the parents out there, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.